Hello and welcome to the Virtual Concert Hall's live show. Boy, do we have an exciting show for you today. Joining me is an incredible musician, James Adler, who is not only a pianist but also a composer and conductor. And just like all guests, he does all three brilliantly. You will not want to miss this show with him. Welcome to the show, everybody. If you're new to this show, I'm so excited to tell you all about us. We are ramping up to our 30th of November deadline for the 2021 Sound Espressivo Global Competition. Check us out at our website, and also we are ramping up pretty much daily with broadcasts that feature our community of judges. We want to introduce everyone to our judges, and prior to this week we have been doing a lot of broadcasts too. Check out our Facebook page for more. We've been talking about the meaning of competitions. Are they useful for competitors? We've been talking about social media. We're talking about how there's immediate feedback and so much more aspects of our competition to let everybody know what we're about. And so there are important things to know about our competition. And first of all, that there's no limits, no time limits for our semi-finalists and finalists should they get in. And that's incredible. We have a limited amount of time for contestants to play programs of any size. The second thing is there are no repertoire restrictions of any kind at any stage of our competition. So you can play anything you want, and that gives you the freedom to express and explore certain composers which you may be really, really enjoying recently. The third is that immediate feedback from our jury members, even at the preliminary auditions. And that is really important. We'll talk a little bit about this today with James, and how immediate feedback from the jury is so vital to affirming what a competitor or a performer has done, but also to get some affirmation and confirmation that they either did a good job or where to improve. It's a mini masterclass in essence. Our prizes have a value of over $100,000 in total. We don't give cash prizes, but all the collaboration, performance opportunities, the career management, the career coaching, the scholarships all amount to something that is seriously world class. And every round of the competition will be live broadcasters, and contestants play in real time. They play in the real time at the location of their choosing, and our tech and our crew behind the scenes will take care of them and everything so that they can just perform. And if you know anybody who might be interested, and if you yourself want to compete, please feel free to check out our website and also to join us on the virtual stage. We really look forward to having you and to hearing you play. And what's more, our judges are also very kind and accomplished musicians who are extremely talented, but also devoted to forging their own careers, which is something that our Sound Espressivo competition is really, really about. Empowering musicians so that they can make their own connections and form their collaborations and empower them into the future where they can be in control of their careers, just like our guest today, who's I'm really excited to introduce, as he's not only kind and encouraging, but also a visionary of what it means to be a pianist, composer, conductor, and so much more. So let's introduce him. So where to even begin, James? James Adler is a pianist who the Chicago Sun-Times acclaims as someone who can create whatever type of music he wants at the keyboard. He is a Yamaha artist who has a very exciting concert coming up, and we will talk about that. He studied at the Curtis Institute of Music, studying both piano and composition. He made his orchestral debut with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, wow, and has appeared in recital in the CSO's Allied Arts Piano Series, the Dame Meyer Hess Memorial Concert Series. He has performed in some of the most important venues in the US, Alice Tully Hall, not just in the US, but also all over the world, in the Royal Albert Hall, as well as the Paramount Theatre in Madison Square Garden. As a composer, James has his compositions has been performed worldwide, most notably at the United Nations General Assembly, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the SAI National Convention in 2018, and his compositions make up a substantial amount of his recordings. His music is also published by Alfred Music. He has composed in a fascinating amount of genres, from pop opera, film, a piano concerto, canticle, to numerous chamber, solo, and choral works. He is also a member of the Department of Fine Arts at St. Peter's University and is a recipient of the 2017 Marquis Lifetime Achievement Awards. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Welcome to the show, James. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you for making the time to talk to us, and I'm sure you'll have a lot to say that will enlighten us.
Well, thank you. Look forward to this.
No, me too. So let's begin with composition. This is something I think you done a lot of throughout your whole career. It's not something I want to ask. Is it correct that you started studying at Curtis? And also, can you describe your journey with composition since those days in Curtis, and now with performing your own works, having orchestras play your music and choir sing your works? What is it like, and how do you compare those two?
It's been a very, very interesting journey, because it really is a journey. I started out as an arranger first, because I was conducting Broadway type of musicals back in high school in a youth center that really wound up nurturing professional talent to this day. And let's say we had X amount of instruments and the score calls for more, so I had to arrange it down to make it work. So that was my start, and then decided I wanted to try my hand at also writing around the age of 13, 14. And it was a different kind of excitement, I must say, but being a composer is much, much lonelier. For those of us who are persons, there's something about being in front of a live audience and performing and connecting and making music as well. But then the combination of pianist / composer, which a publicist recently changed, she said, James, it's not either or. So pianist and composer.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
But the journey really started just before 1980, that I had signed with Maxim Gershunov, a famous management, mainly for piano. But he wanted to have me represent me as pianist and composer. He said, I'll give you the exclusive. This is how the business works. He said, I'll give you the exclusive, but you've got to get the publisher's exclusive. So I went to Bob Holton at Bellman Mills, and he saw that I was working on a project with Quentin Crisp. So Bellman signed me, and he said, fine, go and tell Max. He says, better yet, he picked up the phone, and he said that we'll both give you an exclusive. So I was not so young, I mean, late 20s, early 30s, but that's how that journey began. So both focusing as concert pianist and composer. And a member of the BBC had suggested that I compose a piano concerto and something out of doors. So when people hear my piano concerto and they complain about too much triangle, I want to point out that, well, it's noisy out of doors. So that was the reason for that.
You need to get their attention with the triangle.
Yeah. It's not a triangle concerto like the list.
No. How does it feel now? How does it feel now to have gone through all that? And as a composer and pianist now, how is it different? Do you feel more comfortable, having your music played, playing your own music? How does it feel now?
It's so exciting. I have to say, in a way, it's more comfortable for me to be on stage, playing it or conducting it, because sitting in the audience, listening, is a much more nerve-wracking experience for me. A couple of years ago, they'll kill me if I don't get the title right. It's, quote, the President's Own United States Marine Chamber Orchestra. Had received a score of mine, my Suite Moderne for strings. It's a Baroque suite with a lot of jazz put into it, which is kind of
That's really cool.
reflective of the music that I write these days too. Even one of the books
Very
I provided
cool.
for you as an American composer and pianist, why not both? So it was very, very nerve-wracking to be in that audience. They recorded it and gave us permission. So that is on my Albany Records recording that I released
Wow.
they released a couple of years ago. That was a little more relaxing because I knew the amount of preparation that those folks put into it, so I could relax and not hold my breath and hope
Yeah.
that it comes out. But the interesting thing, Chris, about both playing and writing, that I've had some who've said, well, you know, you should focus on one or the other. And I remind folks that Leonard Bernstein also went to Curtis, and he did
Absolutely.
both.
Yep. And
Uh,
very well. Exceptionally well at that.
the only piece of advice I was given is if I ever plan to play in concert and conduct, don't use a stick. Uh,
Oh.
with the York Symphony, I got to play, and I'm clutching this baton, and then I played Beethoven 4 afterwards in those opening chords, held my breath before pressing down, prayed, can I do
Yeah.
this? So
Yeah.
that's the only piece that I'll tell any performers: if you're conducting your own music and you're going to play, try not to use a baton unless you really have that kind of excellent dexterity to bounce back.
That's good
But
advice. That's really good
yeah,
advice.
yeah,
So I think let's play some of your music. I
okay.
really love this Prelude and Toccata, and
Oh,
we're
thank
gonna
you.
play a little snippet of yours. This is the Prelude. It's about 2 minutes long, and yeah, let's go about playing that for everybody.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you
I
so
love it,
much.
and I loved how like you said just now, you love the whole mixing of Baroque and jazz idioms
Mhm.
together, and I just think the Prelude and Toccata is an example of that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's
Appreciate you.
really, really wonderful. I would be amiss to not talk about also the songs of innocence that you wrote. As a little card of that. Yeah, and this is a brilliant piece, and you named it after William
Thank you.
Blake's set of poems. Can you tell us a little bit about this? And this was also premiered, and they performed the Pittsburgh Camerata. That they performed this work.
Well, they recently performed it. It was
Mm.
actually commissioned. It's one of my older pieces back in, I think, 80. I'm so fuzzy with dates. In the early 80s, and published 84. The New York City Gay Men's Chorus had actually commissioned it. So that was my introduction to New York. I was living in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
And it's a city with some color, but for some reason, when I first heard the chorus in New York and about 150 TTBB, men singing, it just sounded like a wonderful variation of monochromatic sounds with different shades. And that's where I got the idea. It was later orchestrated, but got the idea of saying I wanted the monochromatic color and variety and piano. So then they invited me to come to New York to premiere it. So that's how that came about. And I found out almost by accident that somebody from the Pittsburgh Camerata was in touch. They say, we've performed this and we'd like to broadcast and stream it. How do we go about that? Do you have permission? I said, and how? But then I needed to put them in touch with Arista Music, the works publisher, who was in agreement with me to do anything to get them to be able to have this out and about. So broadcast, I think, from June 2 to June 30th is a paid streaming service. But the performance that they did, they used an octet of men's voices, total knockout. And it was difficult for them because I'm sure they're used to, and they crave singing before audiences. And again, it was for a microphone, and they're all socially distanced.
Wow.
You know how they have to do that.
It's not easy, yeah.
Just not easy at all, but just a wonderful, wonderful experience, and just beautiful what they did with it.
That's wonderful. I hope we get a chance to feature more of your compositions, because I think you have a very important place in American music, especially nowadays. And the fact that you've composed for film, opera, piano and orchestra, canticles, we could go on forever. And I would love to talk more with you about this. But let's talk a little bit about competitions.
May I add one thing to this? Most of those compositions were, in the way I really love to write, is for a reason. We're either commission or friends who are going to do a performance and say, would this fit? That excites me much more, and definitely more motivating as well. But the Canticle for Peace, a friend of mine here in New York, and she also worked for a publisher, one of my early publishers, Lawson and Gould, and she said, I got a chance to write a piece to premiere at the United Nations. And that's how that came about. She said, would you like to write a piece for chorus, organ, and 3 trumpets? And I said, that's big undertaking in just a couple of months. The worst part, she said, well, could you be the organist? And I said, haltingly, I'd much rather be the piano. And so that was the Canticle for Peace, and it was recently performed, I think 3 or 4 years ago, in Texas. At the church where Van Cliburn's mother had donated the organ, so a great big organ there, and chorus and trumpets, and of course I had to be there. Scott and I flew out there, but just a piece from 1987. So that made it very special. Same with my piano concerto. I was asked, could I write something for Nana Doors? I said, sure.
I always feel like performing is an act of service and an offering for the audience, and I think what makes your profession even more amazing is you're offering your own music to the audience, and it's like a slice of you that you're offering to everybody, and I think that's very special, so and an incredible privilege. So thank you for sharing all of that with us. Pleasure. So let's talk a little about competitions. And I know you've been a judge for your numerous piano competitions, and you're also a teacher, and so you must be sending some students to competitions, or you might be allowing them to if they request it. What are your thoughts on competitions as a whole? And I guess one additional question I have is, what do you listen for as a judge, and what is it that perks your, oh hey, I really like this person?
Thank you. I would probably link both, because I've served as a judge of composition contest as well as piano. And the goal really is simple. Part of this is I had some very, very strict early teachers that didn't make it very fun. And my mission was to not be that kind of person. So whether it's somebody in the classroom or in a competition, is to be kind and nurturing. I found I had a teacher that after I graduated Curtis, I wanted to continue some work, and a good friend then, Garrick Olson, brought me to his coach. So Olga Barabini, who was working with a lot of people, Emmanuel X was, I think, coaching with her and some others. And she had a style that I think probably I've adopted more than anybody else. And she would say, that was really very nice and so lovely. Let's do it again. And would you try to do this and this? So she always got the best out of me. So when I'm judging somebody's composition, the way, whether it's a competition or a student, to not do what some of my early teachers did, like, you did this or you did that. Instead saying, well, your playing lacks, or might you consider this? Because you realize, both as a judge now and earlier as a composer, pianist competing, that it's highly personal, and it takes a lot for them to get up there and to be, performing live, or writing music and being critiqued. So you want to encourage them without discouraging them. So I listen for originality, and also to gently, if they're not quite prepared with technique, to gently suggest some different kind of approach or something. But it's to be nurturing, and it's not to be harsh and to turn somebody off, because that just stops the action right there.
That's actually very encouraging for me, because I think when you make music and when you share it with other people, you're really putting yourself out there and to be vulnerable. Absolutely. And to have somebody say to shut you down or to close. I think what those teachers you mentioned before were kind of closing and narrowing what's possible for the artist, for the musician. And what you're doing is no, let me open up even more for you, so that you can explore for yourself what you want to say, what you want to do, right?
But in judging a competition, somebody may come in playing a work that, the judge has played for many years, and a wholly different approach. Yeah. So if I'm used to playing Beethoven slower, because I have the kind of teachers that I remember coaching with Rudolf Serkin, and in Beethoven 4, he let me have it. We spent 15 minutes just on how to breathe. I'm doing this now. I'm lifting weights. I'm going into pelvic tilts and pelvic neutral, and breathing and then putting your hands on the keys and letting it sink in. To get that first chord, 15 minutes you spent. And then a few months later, I heard him perform that with Eugene Ormandy conducting Philadelphia Orchestra. And there were a bunch of us, the students up in the galleries, and we heard him press down. We just sat back and, that was the feeling. So it took so much preparation to be able to do that. So if they have a different approach, and I recently heard somebody else who just went right into it, and I thought, it's not the way I'd go about it. But I have to respect the way their approach, because they're artists in their own right.
Wow, no, that's a beautiful example of someone who's really looked into detail on how it all works mechanically as well as musically, and that's very inspiring.
Another approach, I used to hear that when I was in competition as a student, way back 100 years ago or so, and my late
teens. A few years.
A few years. 50-some?
No.
give or take. So I remember playing Brahms very, very fast. And then the other contestants who came after me also played it too fast. Their teachers were ready to kill me. They said, why'd you do this? I said, that's my interpretation, and they have to do it the wrong way. So the approach I'm trying to say is that with pianists, especially in a piano competition, it's so subjective that a judge should be open to different experiences and to accept what others are doing, unless if Beethoven says, and this music indicates Andante, and they're playing it allegro, you've got to point out, and my way would be, what does Andante mean to you?
Yeah, there we go.
And if they say walk, I said, is it a fast walk? Is it a slow walk? And then we have a discussion and open to other ideas.
Yeah, that's good. Because you're talking more about ideas as opposed to imposing ideas. And we're discussing these concepts, which Andante can be taken and interpreted in quite a few different tempos. It's not a wide range, but it is a range, and I think it's the nuances.
Yeah, but when people say they would knock down the score if they drop a lot of notes. So I would ask, do you want to have a pianist who is a wonderful machine, technically flawless, doesn't drop a note, but there's not as much heart in that interpretation? So for me, if somebody's taking chances and they're putting emotion into it, I don't mark them down unless there's a category that says you must do that. Uh,
Wow. No, thank you for that
for
insight. I'm
starting.
sure this will be really interesting for our competitors and just, I guess, also encouraging
Right.
for teachers who are sending our sending students for this competition that our judges are actually very nurturing and we encourage people to open their minds. I really love
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah.
Before we finish off, I would love to talk about your upcoming concert. There's two.
Thank you.
One that's more imminent, and one that's a little further away. One is which is the James Adler recital, November 9th in 2021 at the Piano Salon at Yamaha Artist Services in New York City. And the second one is
Perfect.
with the Queer Urban Orchestra, QUO, in New York, Rachmaninoff Concerto number 2 in March 12th of 2022. This is so exciting.
Thank
Let's
you.
talk a little bit about the first one.
The
Uh, yeah, can you tell us a bit about that and that program?
Sure. This will be my return to Yamaha. That's my pianistic home here in New York. I'm very
Very
grateful
nice.
to be able to play on those gorgeous CFX grand pianos. I already have my eye, if it's available, is on 1500, which is the instrument I like to record on as well.
Wow,
Um,
nice.
the program is going to be with a live audience, a small audience, but after all these COVID-19 months away, I just crave being able to play and record live. It will be recorded,
Wonderful.
probably for CD, possibly for broadcast for streaming. And this is the advice when people ask me about for young people coming in. Think outside the box.
Hmm.
We need to think outside the proverbial box. Instead of saying, oh, I must be with XNZ label, to some cases go to CD Baby, produce it, be able to get that code, put it up, and
Exactly.
get it out there among family and friends, and use social media. Even the big publicists are using it as well. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, use those because that is a way of getting audience out. But the Yamaha program, in a way, it's an homage to I'm dedicated to my mentors, Seymour Lipkin, who was my main teacher at Curtis, and Rudolf Serkin, and Eleanor Sokolov, who passed away a couple of
Mm,
years ago. So I'll be playing Beethoven Waldstein Sonata on that occasion.
wonderful.
And the question will be, and
Wonderful.
everybody waits for the last moment. On Beethoven's piano, which is lighter, I saw Rudolf Serkin once lick his fingers and slide down the keys. I've seen other pianists use scales. And I found a technique, if this works, it'll be wonderful. But I use glissandi on thumbs. I can control it better, make
Ah.
it even, and then make sure when you turn that you put the chords in there that Beethoven wrote. And to do it that way and actually be able to smile and not say, oh my God, how is this? So to have fun with this and
Oh,
to
that's
make music.
brilliant. Thanks for the tip.
So thank you. And Bach Toccata in D major, which is one of my graduation pieces from Curtis. Three pieces from the age of COVID.
Mm.
One was written for me by a brilliant Kuwaiti composer, uh, Abdulaziz Shabak, who he wrote a piece called James Adler. Uh, Gets a little scary because when critics get their hands on it, they have things to say when they see this. Uh, and Seth Bedford wrote a delightful piece of music written in the age of COVID under 1 minute. And
Wow.
the night that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, it was on Rosh Hashanah, the New Year Eve. I had to do something musically, so my piece For Notorious, known as RBG, and when she had that certain collar, when she was
Yeah.
going to give a wicked descent, I put those general dissonances in that. So that'll be on the program, and I'm going
Lovely.
to tackle for the first time publicly, after years of trying, the Horowitz Carmen variations.
Yeah, not easy, that piece, yeah. Wow.
Not at all. So I made it even harder. The Zay Horowitz Adler Carmen variations. I'll be playing on that.
That's exciting. Well, Thank you.
the
I
built-in
really look
icon.
forward to it, and I look forward
Thank
to
you.
hearing the recording. So thank you again for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to talk to you, and we have to do this again because it's just
Absolutely.
we
I
just
look
touched the
forward to that.
tip of the iceberg of all the questions I wanted to ask you. I want to thank the Sound Espressivo competition crew, especially our director, Fedor Ospensky, and just thank you for everybody for listening. It's been such a pleasure, James. We'll talk soon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye now.
Thank you.